Now that we have posted the full Pokédex from my Fakemon region, the Cornera region, let's talk about some designs and concepts that didn't make it into the dex. Hey everyone, Brandon here. So as I said before, today I'm going to take you through some of the designs and concepts that ultimately didn't make the cut in the Cornera region, and why they were scrapped. Make sure to check out the previous video in the Cornera series before watching this one, so you can know what the full Cornera Pokédex actually looks like. But in that video, I said that the next video in this series would be a look at the maps and characters of the Cornera region. Well, as it turns out, that video became a little bit bigger of a production than I was anticipating, so I'll need some more time to get that finished. But I figured I would make this video for you avid Cornera fans in the meantime, so I didn't just leave you all hanging. Throughout this video, I will not only talk about the scrap designs, but also changes I would have made if I could go back and do this region over again now. As you know, Cornera has many regional variants. They make up approximately 1/3 of the Corneran Pokédex. The reason behind this is because initially, Cornera started off as an idea I had for a little fan game I wanted to create. I was inspired by the fan game Pokémon Daybreak, which has some really cool regional variants in it. So I figured I would just make my own fan game in my spare time and put a bunch of regional variants in instead of making my own Pokemon. So many of those original variants I had planned made it into the Cornera dex because I loved them so much and didn't have the heart to cut them. If I could go back now, I would definitely cut many of them. Quality over quantity, you know? Anyway, let's talk about some regional variants that did get cut. Starting us off is Cornerin Swinub. This little guy is a poison and ground type. It is inspired by a type of wild pig that can be found in the southwestern United States, known as the peccary or javelina. The reason behind its typing is the peccary can release a strong musk when threatened, which is what gives them their nickname of the skunk pig. That nickname is also what inspired Cornerin Swinub's black coloration. Another notable change to Swinub with this variation is now you can see its feet. The major reason for this is I wanted to lead into a branch evolution for Swinub, which would be Swinasty, the filth Pokemon. Swinasty plays up that smelly inspiration and adds some spikes onto its back to reference the peccary's other nickname, the Razorback, which is actually how I found out about this animal in the first place, as my grandpa lived in Arkansas and was a fan of the University of Arkansas Razorbacks. So there are a few reasons why I scrapped these two. Number one is I obviously had way too many regional variants already and needed to make cuts. Number two is that after thinking on it, taking a 3-stage line and turning it into a 2-stage split evo didn't really make much sense for Pokemon, as we've never seen it done before and therefore didn't seem very logical to me. Number three is I think I over-designed Swinasty. There's just too much going on there to the point that it really doesn't feel like a Pokemon anymore. I think the concepts for these two are really cool, but probably would have been better applied to an original mon and not a regional variant of Swinub. If you've made it this far into the video, I'm sure you would love the rest of the content on my channel, so make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to keep up to date with future videos. Another regional variant line that was scrapped is one that was actually cut in the middle of me posting about the Cornera region, and has left many confused as to where it went. The regional variants I am referring to are Cornerin Rolla, Cornerin Boldore, and Cornerin Gigalith. They are all obviously rock electric types. They are all inspired by the Colorado Gold Rush, and the fact that gold is a really good conductor of electricity. The idea is that they would blend in caves and be mistaken for real gold. So when a miner would strike them, they would get mad and chase the miner down. Eventually, they evolved to have a pickaxe-like face in order to avoid getting hit, making miners think someone had already claimed that gold mining spot. So I scrapped these for a few reasons. For one, just like Swinub, I had way too many variants. For two, just like Swinasty, Boldore and Gigalith are a bit over-designed. Also, a mistake I made is that the eyes don't really go along with the line's already established lore that they aren't actually eyes but rather hexagonal ears. 3 is that they are ultimately just redundant. We have the Alolan Geodude line that already has the rock electric typing and the gold inspiration, so there really isn't much of a reason for the Cornerin Roggenrola line to exist. Number 4 is that it didn't mess up my dex layout on Instagram. And number 5 is that I already had way too many rock types in the dex, so I needed to make cuts. Like I said before, I cut this out mid-posting of the dex. I think it was right before I posted the Let's Make New Forms video. I've seen many people wondering where it went, and it turned into kind of a meme on my Discord server. Feel free to join my Discord, by the way. The invite is in my link tree in the description. Now let's talk about some original Pokemon that got cut. One of the first things that made me decide to switch from making a fan game to creating a fan region is the thought, it'd be kind of cool to make my own starter Pokemon. The first starter line I created was the Cactus line. But Cactus originally had a very different design for its final evolution. Here is the original design for Serafloria. As you can see, it is pretty different from the final design. The reason I changed it was because after making Ovasuvius and Penthagon, I realized it didn't match the leap in design from the middle stage. It kinda just felt like a bigger Buctus with flowers on it. Given that Buctus, Capragma, and Gulurine only evolved from being given a nucleotype, I wanted their evolutions to feel like they almost mutated, as one would when a part of their DNA is changed. Speaking of the starters, I actually had a completely different fire starter than the Flambabe line originally. As has become quite controversial to do now, I followed the Chinese zodiac of the snake instead of the goat. Anyway, here is Slizzle, Serpent, and Slithire. Slizzle and Serpent are pure fire type, and Slithire is fire ice type. They are inspired by king snakes, kings, and the Uktana. So let's get into why they were scrapped. The biggest reason is the concept just didn't translate from my brain into a good Pokemon. Honestly, Slithire just feels like a straight up Digimon, and Serpent feels too much like a final stage. This is in no way the artist's fault, I just couldn't figure out how to make this concept work properly. I wanted too much to be incorporated, which just showed how inexperienced I was at the art of creating Pokemon. And Uktana did end up making it into the dex with Hydrana, so you could think of this as Beta Hydrana. When I started the Cornera region, I did a thing a lot of creators do, and I tried to make a Pokemon to fill every type combo that doesn't exist in the actual games yet. For the Poison Steel type combo, I had this idea for a Pokemon that was inspired by oil wells. It would have a steel body with the ability to spit out oil at opponents. Well, what animals tend to spit a lot and can be found in the Four Corners area? Alpacas and llamas, of course. So here is Oilpaca and Oilama. While llamas and alpacas aren't native to the Four Corners area, there are many farms that have them as guards for their livestock, as they can chase away many predators. Oil wells are also kind of a foreign object, so I thought the combo would work well. Keywords being, I thought. The reason these two were scrapped was once again because I had an idea in my head that didn't translate well into a Pokemon, and I couldn't figure out how to make it work. Another reason is because on further research and reflection, not every new type combo needs to be in a given region. I mean, on average, only 8 or 9 new type combos are added in each new generation, so I decided to try and pull back on how many new type combos I did. On top of that, I had the sound type to deal with making new type combos for. And while we're on the topic, if I could go back, I would not do the sound type. Normal works just fine for it in the same way that Fairy works for the light type and Psychic works for the Cosmic or Mystic type. After doing my own custom type, I have realized that I'm really not a big fan of custom typings. Speaking of things I'm not a big fan of anymore, let's talk about Eevee clones. They are a Pokemon, typically normal type, that have multiple branching evolutions, each with its own unique type or type combo, just like Eevee. I did this in my region with Dwarf. I love the design of Dwarf and its evolutions, but ultimately I would probably scrap them. Because Eevee clones really don't make sense. Because we have Eevee. Making a clone of it would take away from what makes Eevee special. Unlike Pika clones, which really don't take away from Pikachu as it's the mascot, Eevee is unique because it is the only Pokemon that can do what it does. Making more Pokemon that can just makes it less unique. There were originally going to be 5 evolutions to Dwarf, but I cut 2. One I had designed and the other just stayed as a concept. The one that I had designed is Necrabbit, which is a ghost poison type. It is inspired by wild hares, and that they just look really creepy to me. I don't know, there's just something behind those eyes that screams evil to me. Anyway, the other concept was a grass and ground type that was inspired by English Angora rabbits and haystacks. I thought these two concepts would have mixed really well together. The reason I didn't just cut the whole line is because I had already started posting the Dwarf line by the time I decided to pull back on the evolutions, and it would have messed up my Instagram layout. A couple of other concepts that never came to fruition are some new forms for Meloetta that I had planned early on in the development of the Cornera region, right after I had come up with nucleotypes. Obviously, Meloetta is a very sound-based Pokemon, and nucleotypes are the origin of the sound type being discovered in Cornera, so I thought up an origin form for Meloetta that would have been Sound Fairy. After giving Meloetta a nucleotype, it could activate this form by using a new move it would learn called Origin Song. There was also another form of Meloetta, which would have been a story point where the evil team uses Bonate to corrupt Meloetta, giving it a sound dark form called the Requiem form. It would essentially be Shadow Meloetta, which you could catch and purify in the postgame. The reason these two were scrapped was the concept just felt too much in the vein of a side game, and I wanted my own original legendary Pokemon to be the focal point of the story. The Sound Dark Requiem form ultimately became the basis of Machus in the end. And those are my scrapped concepts for the Cornera region. Let me know what you think of them and which one was your favorite. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to keep up to date with future videos. I am working my hardest to get the map and characters video up soon, so look forward to that. Thank you guys so much for watching, and with that, I will see you guys next time.